Starting now?
5 seconds now. We are live.
Good afternoon, everybody. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very, very good afternoon, good morning, good evening. That's my tagline from wherever you are in the world. My name is Dr. Abdullah Muhammad Nawi, or sometimes known as Dr. A. In fact, known as Dr. A. And I'm coming to you live right now from my home studio in Johor, which is the same state as where the Connecting Asia headquarters is. And right now we are live in the final session for the AIC 2020, which is the Strategic Forum. And if you were present, we had the first session of the Strategic Forum at 2 o'clock, from 2 to almost 4, where we had a look at quite a few opinions and views on the way forward from during this COVID-19 situation. And it was a very interesting discussion, I do believe, because I was the panelist back then, but now flipping the tables and now I'm here. It was interesting because there were many angles to look at one single thing, and that's something which I realize is the beauty of having such cross-cultural, transdisciplinary collaboration of sorts, where we bring all sorts of insights into the table, and that's what we are doing here today. So this is the second session of the Strategic Forum and the final session for the AIC 2020. And joining us with me, we have 6 guest panelists. And I'm just going to go, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say their names, and then after that, before they go on for their session, I will give a little blurb about them just to tell the audience on who they are. And one thing which I forgot to mention about me before this, you may be wondering who I am. I'm the Assistant Dean for External and Global Engagement for the Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities in University Technology Malaysia, and I am also the President of the APRA Malaysia chapter. The APRA is the Association for Professional Researchers and Academicians, and Malaysia chapter is the main chapter here, of course, but then again we have the President of the Pakistan chapter, Dr. Imran, and we heard from the other presidents as well previously, Dr. Aliyu and Dr. Badar, and hopefully, inshallah, that the APRA will be a force to reckon with in the future. So let's move on to the first agenda of the day, and I would like to call upon a dear friend of mine here in UTM, somebody who I've worked with in many different occasions, somebody who I respect and admire, and just a little bit about her. I'm just going to pull up, just give me, okay. So the first guest that we have, the first panelist, is Professor Dr. Haniza Sarmin, otherwise known as Prof. Niza. There she is, the lovely lady who's waving there, and behind her is the background for UTM International. That's where she's attached. The UTM International is the international office, but she's more than that, because first and foremost, she is a mathematician. And she keeps on telling me that, and every time we have a discussion and I say, oh, I can't understand mathematics, I love language, she goes the other way around. Everything is mathematics to her. But just a bit more about her. She received her bachelor, MA and PhD in mathematics from the State University of New York in Binghamton, New York, and his specialization of research is in group theory, formal language theory, and splicing systems. And just a little bit more about her, she has written 500 research papers, 500 in national and international journals and proceedings, and she's also supervised and graduated 36 PhD students, 25 master's students, and 83 undergraduates. and this includes the youngest PhD holder in the Malaysia Book of Records 2017, Dr. Hazira Mat Hasil. Wow, that's indeed a lot. So that's briefly about Professor Nizar. So Prof. Nizar, let's go on to your session. The floor is yours for about 8 to 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Dr. A, and good afternoon from Johor Bahru, Malaysia, and good morning there, afternoon, wherever you are. And thank you very much, Connecting Asia, for this opportunity to just share a little bit on our expertise on what we feel about this post-COVID. Let me share, and I'm really happy to see an panelist here. So I have a simple slide here that I would share. Can you see the slide?
Yes.
All right, okay. So I'm gonna talk about the beyond COVID-19, the shift in international higher education. So that the A mentioned about my post in UTM International as Associate Director in Global Strategy and Engagement. So I manage all the visitors, all the MOUs and so on for UTM. Let me just share a little bit. Each of us know about this COVID-19. So we had a talk before we start with Professor Klims about how COVID right now it's still high in the US, in the UK, even though in Malaysia, I'll show you later, we still have a very high case. And so suddenly the life changes and the migration, how we can manage our education, because this is very unprecedented and also a challenge to us. And it comes from this multiple dimension. And it somehow make us pause, but we had to move on for the essential services. We had to make it to more sense to us, to make sense, and how can we be innovative and proactive and to adapt to this. And as of actually 18 December, 2 days ago, this is the COVID cases in Malaysia, in which we have 90,000 plus confirmed cases and also 432 deaths. But the A, excuse me, because I have to have numbers in here. But as we can see that this is not an ending story yet. We still have like higher and higher cases now, even in Malaysia. So this has impact all aspects of society. Students out of school, 1.6 billion students in education is out of school. We need the clean energy transition for this investment, this much. And the poverty, we have more than 135 million people pushed into poverty by 2030. So what do we do for this impact of COVID-19 on global education? Number of learners impacted by national school closures, it's 1.38 billion. 1.38 billion students have been impacted. That is in Malay. Sekolah ditutup hari ini means the school is closed. So the school has been closed in Malaysia and it's open probably just a few weeks or months for those having exam. But right now, the whole year they have been working or having classes online. In response of in the COVID-19 higher education, before I move on, let me just share a little bit about our UTM facts and figures. We have more than 20,000 students in UTM, 14,000 plus undergraduate students, and more to 9,000 postgraduate students. They're taking classes, they're doing research, and we have 1,400 academic staff. And in the 7 faculties, we also have 4,000 plus international students coming in from almost 80 countries. We're having students going abroad in mobility, outbound and also inbound. We have been doing very actively, and 2019 towards the end is one of the most time that we are very, very active. And then come 2020. So the first case of this COVID started in 25th of January when there's imported case. And as I mentioned, in the current situation, you can see that many cases in the whole 13 states of Malaysia. And the worst is in Sabah, and now it's in Selangor or the Klang Valley, Kuala Lumpur, and so on. Although in Malaysia, we already have preventive measures starting from the very first phase of movement control order starting on 18th of March. That was like 7 months, 9 months ago. Up until now, we are in the 8th phase, and it's until the end of the year, 31st of December. And UTM has full-time online learning, all online starting 1st of April of 2020. And this is actually my class, face-to-face versus online learning. So in today's higher education, we know that futuristic trends are already emerging. And also, this has been accelerated by the pandemic. I never had my class online before or fully online before. I had it physical. I had undergraduate students in the class. And starting on 1st of April, suddenly in 2 weeks, we have to move totally online. And what do we have to do? We have remote, and we have also virtual working environment. And how to manage this? How do UTM manage this? These students suddenly have to go back home or stay in UTM, and suddenly they cannot come to class. And UTM has started the online learning implementation with these 3 alternatives. We can do asynchronous online learning, no live materials, we can record the video. We can do also synchronized online learning, where we have live session, or we can also do the third alternative, which is task-based online learning. And how do we do this? Within those month of April, we have had these guidelines. We came up with a guideline. We have online training for lecturers, 39 of them. We have 2,000 lectures attended online training for that only particular month, and also video tutorials and online learning session by lecturers and also students. They're not used to having WebEx and Zoom and so on. And anyway, we have these virtual learning resources at UTM. We have blended learning. We have been doing this, although not 100%, but we have OCW, we call it UTM Open Courseware, and we have massive open online courses that we have in UTM. So this in part is helping us with managing the students. UTM virtual learning space that we have has been used before, mixed and blended with the physical, but since April, we have been doing this e-learning.utm.my. This is actually the e-learning for my class. I'm teaching master's class this semester. So it's called Group Theory 1. So my students are all over the world, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Libya. So we put in, my class is synchronous, and it's through Zoom, so I can see all the students' face. There are not that many of them, a dozen of them. So we blend in classes and then put assignment in there, and this is how we manage and making sure the students have enough internet. But we do have common issues of online teaching and learning. How the lecturers adapt and struggle with doing this all online, especially a mathematician. How do you actually show all the calculations? So what I use still the whiteboard. What about the computer literacy? What about our lecturers who are not used to doing this video recording? What about all the technical issues? What about the internet? And time management of all the academic staff, they have to stay at home with the kids and so on. And self-motivation even for the staff and the students. So these are what we have to manage. And UTM gave a survey on online learning, and 98% of courses have successfully implemented online learning in the first 2 weeks of April. And 78 courses were run synchronously, while the rest were run asynchronously. And what kind of online teaching tools that we have for UTM? So the number one, because some students have a problem with internet, so we use WhatsApp. E-learning that I mentioned earlier, we also have WebEx. WebEx account is given to all academic staff in UTM. Zoom, so many offices, they start using Zoom for classes. Big Blue Button. YouTube, so they can do all classes and streaming, live streaming. Google Meet, Telegram, and FB Live. Facebook Live is one of the best to me, because last semester I was teaching through Facebook Live. students can go through recorded one, and they can do it even if the internet is low. As I mentioned earlier, that we have been doing very actively in sending our students inbound and outbound mobility, but we have to stop because there's no traveling. So we had to come up with something to cover this. So we do this called online global classroom. So we started with, we have this alliance called ATUNet, Asia Technological University Network, which is very active in doing this in online global classroom. So even Dr. A, the assistant dean in the external and global engagement in the faculty, they all also have their own OGC in their faculty. We also send our students to go abroad, but virtually. So we've been very active this way. This is just to show that even though we are online, we can do it virtually. 30 students from 6 institutions from all over the world, 4 countries. So we do this very active activity for 2 weeks. They talk, they do global talk, they do presentation, they do quizzes, and they manage to meet virtually with each other. And how do we do this? Going to international conference since we cannot travel. So I attended this QS Apple on 25th to 27 November 2020. It was supposed to be in Perth, Australia, but then it goes virtual. So probably something that we can do even after the pandemic is over, hopefully soon, to have these virtual conferences like the Connecting Asia. You have been doing it very successfully this year. This is the situation that you can have a booth, a virtual booth there. So you just click and then you can go to that room, you can go to that room, you can go to the booth, you can meet people, and you can go to the plenary session, you can do this chatting in the chat box, and you even have all these different kind of booths. So you probably can do it for poster presentation. And also, I was just doing it from my office. No need to travel. And we have been doing also this University President Forum, where we invite all the presidents from so many partners, universities around the world. But for the first time, we did this virtually. We have managed to invite some speakers, and then we have more than 7,000 viewers, and we can do it. We have done this 3 times this year with this Asia Technology University Network.
Okay, Prof. Niza, please wrap up. Thank you.
This is my last slide. Next one, Dr. A. Thank you. Just some sharing. Back to you, Doctor.
All right. Thank you very much. Just pop down to the last slide. Thank you very much, Prof. Niza, for a very informative session. And if any of you were watching the previous session, this is something that I talked about just before this, but it was more on a faculty level of the things that we were doing there. And Prof. Niza is expanding the scope up to what we're doing in UTM as a whole. Thank you once more, Prof. Niza, for a very informative talk.
Thank you, Doctor.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to the next presenter. And the next presenter I have is all the way from Moscow, I believe. So the next presenter is from Moscow, and just a little bit about him. And the next presenter, if you were watching the opening ceremony, the opening or the closing, I can't remember which one. These past few days have been a blur. I'm almost dying. Right, so next is Professor Dr. Ozkan Saritas, and he is a professor of innovation and foresight at the National Research University, Higher School of Economics, Moscow. And he's also the honorary professor at the Manchester Institute of Innovation Research, and he's the editor-in-chief of Foresight, the Journal of Future Studies, Strategic Thinking and Policy. And he's done a lot of work internationally as well with United Nations, the European Commission, and there's a lot more of these titles under his belt. So I'm not going to waste any more time singing him praises and and so on, because I'm sure that he can do that for himself with the work that he is going to showcase before us. So without any further ado, let's invite Ozkan, Dr. Saritas. The floor is yours.
Yeah, many thanks, Dr. Navi, for the great introduction. And also many thanks for organizing such a wonderful event. Again, Dr. Navi and Dr. Qureshi for inviting me to take a part in this event and giving me a second chance to talk. I greatly appreciate this. I'm here not only to talk, but also to interact with you all, with the other participants, and congratulations for the excellent conference we have been organizing so far. For the sake of course, giving equal opportunity to everyone to talk, and also give me the opportunity to listen to, I will just go into the topic. I will also show a couple of slides just to give a background to what I would say. First of all, we have all experienced, and we are still experiencing this great pandemic. I think it will leave a lot of memories to us, starting from the sad memories. Of course, a lot of lives have been lost, and a lot of jobs and social disturbance, and a lot of disruptions. So we have a lot to learn from this pandemic in many ways. We didn't learn from the previous pandemics, obviously enough, but here's an opportunity. So what we can learn from this pandemic. First of all, the pandemic gave us a great opportunity to us, means not only to us in person, I mean, like, people who are doing some academic research on futures, foresight, long-range planning, and etc., but to everyone. If we were giving lectures to people, to anybody, we could take probably days, weeks, maybe years to explain what is complexity, what is uncertainty, what is the systemic nature of our lives. So now we saw that everybody has experienced that. And everybody has seen that our world is very much interconnected. It is consisting of some social systems, economic systems, technological systems, environmental systems, political systems, and cultures. So the life is a great combination of all these different systems. And we need to think about their future kind of in a holistic way, because even a small virus has created a lot of disruptions in all different aspects of our lives. So probably the key question is what we can learn from this virus and how we can move ahead with that. I like the title of this session, Towards the Digital Futures Beyond the COVID-19, because COVID-19 also gave us a chance to try and test different approaches and different solutions to our lives. As we have just listened from the experience, educational experience, at least we see that our education system has transformed a lot, and we are organizing things in a different way, and we are testing new methods, new approaches, new applications, and new solutions to them. And I'm hoping that this will give us an opportunity to transform our lives beyond the COVID-19. So technological response to COVID-19 started right with the beginning of the pandemic. So there is another kind of a kind of delayed response. So because that was a chaos, a kind of complex system, we didn't understand at the beginning. So our first concern was how to survive this situation and how to stay alive as the pandemic outbreak started. So we have already started giving some technological responses with our readily available technologies. So this is what we would do anyway. But I'm putting aside why we were not prepared for this pandemic, as this wasn't the first pandemic we were experiencing. So that's another question. But when we come to the present pandemic, our first concern as human beings was to stay alive and to survive. So very basic technologies and solutions came onto our agenda, like this masks, for example, ventilators, telemedicine and the electronic health record system. So I talked about this briefly yesterday. And in time, in a few months' time, we started more or less understanding the nature of the pandemic and how it moves around, and started the lockdowns, and then wanted to make sure that we can perform the essential functions of our lives. So we started, as the professor said, virtual working, remote working, and we started using communication technologies, mobile technologies for supply, delivery, and retail activities. And now we are in the process of enhancing this situation, because even if we have fulfilled some of our essential functions, our economies and social order have been hit to a great extent. So we need to enhance these systems to make sure that we can again sustain our lives. So we start talking about a number of technologies like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, robotics, applications of 5G, autonomous systems, drones, and then maybe in the longer term, not very long, but in the near future, we will talk about fintech, financial technologies, the use of blockchain, data science, and etc. But our eventual aim should be to achieve resilience, to be able to create some adaptive systems, to make sure that in the next crisis, our systems are not disrupted so badly and so strongly. Here in the next slide, I have a map of technologies, because since the beginning of this conference and the other events I have been participating, I see that people are talking about a number of technologies representing different parts, different aspects of our lives. So basically, as the session title suggests, we are moving into a digital future. Digital futures are emerging, and we are doing things differently than in the past, and soon things will be even more different. So we are moving into a stage of technological and social convergence. The reason I'm putting all these technologies together and mapping them in one slide is that our life again will consist of a combination of them. So we will use more information. Information is very important to us to understand what is going on around us, around our world, because if we don't understand, we cannot develop any mechanisms to intervene into that, to improve situations or to change them. We are getting more interconnected, and we are getting more integrated. There are a number of billions of interconnected devices now, and we are also seeking now some systems how we can also integrate human in these systems. And we are doing innovations in different ways. So the future of innovation, research and innovation will be heavily using of technologies, which will actually show us the future of the world by using all artificial reality, virtual reality, and other technologies. And again, will give us an opportunity to try and test different solutions before we actually experience them. So that may help us to our forward thinking. And meanwhile, we expect that our infrastructures will be developed. So our governance systems will be developed. We will have new mechanisms for improving our decision making. There will be smarter cities and smarter environments. Again, smart energy systems, smart transport systems, and all sorts of smart systems will be on our agenda. Our industry is moving. We are talking about the industry 4.0 now, and then even beyond what is next. And we are also developing some new systems to enable communication, networking, sharing our resources, and etc. The future is a combination of all these technologies. So we need to think about them in a kind of a systemic way. Again, what kind of future narrative emerges as a result of the use of these technologies? And what will be their social, economic, cultural, environmental implications for us. So it is very important to see the big picture towards this digital futures with, again, all the opportunities and threats these technologies may bring. So whatever future emerges, our positions as human within this technological development is crucial. So the core of this technological development should be towards human technology convergence. There are a lot of people now, for example, talking about singularity, smarter machines, smarter AI, and smarter than human minds, and how they are worried, like, how can we cope with this? Yes, we should really worry about that. But at the same time, we should make sure that we are developing systems which are human-centered. So we need to approach this digital futures from the convergence of different technologies, the convergence of brain with those technologies, and the convergence of brains together. So that is what I call as human in the loop systems.
Okay, Özkan, please wrap up in a few more seconds.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the human element is important again, the human well-being, health and performance. So we need to conduct really interdisciplinary and intercultural studies and develop scholarship in order to have a grounded discussion on where these systems are evolving to. And finally, it is also important to design the ecosystem which will support this transformation. Standards, policies, legal frameworks, and also social, ethical, and cultural frameworks, again, thinking and considering about our mental privacy and confidentiality. So these are the issues on our agenda in digital transformation following the COVID-19. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you very much, Özkan. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Özkan Saritas, for a very, very informative session. Again, there was so much going on there. I wanted to have more time for us to unpack the very dense information that was on the PowerPoint. I think that they could lead to some very interesting discussions to come. Thank you very much once again. So, ladies and gentlemen, we now move on from Europe, from Moscow. We now move on to Pakistan, and the next guest speaker is Mr. Khusro Pervez Khan, and Mr. Khusro Pervez Khan is serving as the head of campus at, how do you pronounce it? Sabist, S-Z-A-B-I-S-T, Sabist University, Islamabad campus. He has enriched administrative and academic work experience and has served the government of Pakistan in senior administrative positions for more than 35 years. He's worked with many different ministries, including as additional secretary, and he's renowned for policy making, and he's also a seasoned bureaucrat. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are very lucky to have with us somebody very high up from the Pakistan ecosystem. And let's hear what he has to say, weighing in on the future of digitalization beyond COVID-19. So, Mr. Khusro, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdullah, for I am humbled with the introduction you have made. Thank you very much indeed. In the name of Allah, the most magnificent and merciful. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I'll be basically addressing the very important issue which Dr. Özkan has also mentioned about the legal and the policy framework which will be available with the national and the international governance. So the policy choices, I'll just dilate on that. Before that, I want to thank Dr. Neza also for a very, very candid, setting the stage for that, especially the numbers she has reflected here about the climate, the poverty, and the global education system. And similarly, I'm also grateful to Dr. Oskan for giving our digital future prospects, and he has also set the tone of the meeting. Thank you very much. So we'll be discussing, and I'll quote from Vladimir Lenin, where he said that there are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where a decade happens. It has become so true that within the onset of this pandemic, it not only accelerated, but it turbocharged the most significant geopolitical trends of recent decades. And those four significant geopolitical trends were global inequality, questioning the legitimacy of political institutions, the antiquated global architecture, and technological disruption. I'll just, 1 minute each, I will dilate on them. The inequality within the countries was a problem, but with this COVID-19, if you see, it has turbocharged the situation. And as the global economy sputters forward, the widening wealth divide has brought anger and protest, not only in the developed world, but in the developing world, but in the developed world also. You can see across India, you can see across many cities of different countries, including the most developed nations like USA, where the people are very, very angry and there are different protests going on. And that, of course, has thrown a challenge for the political leadership. So the political leadership must address this phenomena around. They should infuse fiscal stimulus. Inclusive financial governance is the need of the day. And opening up of economy when people desperately need it is another dimension where the leadership can work on this. This phenomena has exasperated and it has questioned the legitimacy of the political leadership and the political institutions in all the countries almost. Most of the countries, you'll bear me out that they are facing public anger at their national and subnational level. The problem of political polarization and reduced confidence in the institution is also accelerating globally. Public health issues and unemployment and food security have become serious global issues, even in the developed nations also. And there is an outcry for provisioning of reliable public health services, ensuring availability of affordable food and creation of jobs. And this will definitely result in reducing the public anger and frustration. The global institutions also failed in many ways, and the antiquated global architecture was unable to respond essentially. If you see the world around, when this pandemic was on, there was a trade war going on between USA and China. Instead of trade liberalization, there was more protectionist policies there. Prior to that COVID, the US exit from Paris Agreement has a serious damage on climate change efforts. And similarly, discriminatory use of different conventions and agreements by the global leadership is questioned by many nations that they are actually dealt with discrimination. Prime example, if I'll give, is the latest My Country First approach to vaccine development and distribution. It has a lot of resentment in the developed world, and but the quick action by WHO, recent announcement of procurement and distribution of 2 billion vaccine doses for developing country is, I think, our approach in the right direction. Technological disruption, Dr. Oskan has spoken much about it and the future of the digital transformation. And I think this COVID-19 has accelerated investment in automation of the workplace, machine learning and AI. And this will definitely shape the digital revolution that has started creating both winners and losers. So I'm saying this statement, both winners and losers, because there are many areas which has struck very hard because of this digital revolution. But we are convinced that digital transformation will unlock more human potential by creating more opportunities for distance learning, telemedicine, and many other areas. The negative effect of digital transformation can be seen in the social media platforms. Virtuality of news has become dented a lot as far as the social media is concerned and its credibility is concerned. In many cases, the truth is lost, and the people are questioning that what are the values that are important to us and who will protect the privacy issues. So the challenges are huge. Bold conditions and agreement on the governance of intellectual property, pricing, manufacturing of COVID-19 treatment. This is one challenge, which is the very, very real and immediate challenge which we need to address. And international institutions would require to make massive global procurement to buy vaccines for poor countries. Reinforcing of the Paris Agreement will be another challenge for the global community. Another major challenge would be international agreement on adapting transparent mechanism for making the big tech accountable for reshaping the individual privacy on the pattern of European Union, new regulation for data practices and anti-competitive behavior. This has recently been, enacted. Then computer literacy remains the key challenge for many nations, including Pakistan. And domination of cyberspace and control of internet would be another big challenge for all nations and would require international agreement on the internet governance. This is very important to our mind. What are the policy choices for the national government? The first policy choice is that the government should use digital revolution to improve public service, and they should put public value at the center of health innovation. The government should use procurement, grants, and loans to make that fiscal and financial stimulus. And the world need to embrace the new normal of ensuring public-private collaboration, where it should be the public interest and not private profit alone at the center of the public policy. And properly funding of our public institutions, which has done a lot during this crisis, so by strengthening the civic infrastructure, is also required as a policy choice. At the global level, the global leadership need to create global partnerships between developed and developing nations. Bold conditions may be placed on the governance of intellectual property pricing and manufacturing of COVID-19. International institutions are required to make mass global procurement to buy vaccine for poor countries. Addressing the issue of climate change by reinforcing the Paris Agreement would be one of the challenges for the global institutions. And this will result in the transition to green economy. Then the UN SDGs identifying goals and connectivity as a critical element for upward mobility would require governments around the world to have the access to the internet and digital technology as fundamental human right, especially when it has direct access to right to life, association, expression, and access to information and education.
Sorry, Mr. Khusrake, can I
just last international agreement on the internet governance, data security, and cyber security, respecting the sovereignty of nation cyberspace, is one of the prime requirements. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khusra. That was a very, very insightful look, and I was especially drawn to your critique on social media and how people are beginning to question the legitimacy, to question the directions, and how how much can be trusted, and so on. That it opens up a whole new layer of discussion, which I think that we should not just walk away from, especially when we talk about digitalization beyond COVID-19. Thank you very much, sir, for your very insightful session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Right, so ladies and gentlemen, moving on to our next guest, and our next guest is from Belgium. That's right. So our next guest is from Belgium, and he is Professor Dr. Wim Haverbeke. I'll try to get his name right. Hopefully I got Wim van Haverbeke. That's the one. Okay, and he's an author, he's a speaker, and he's an advisor on digital strategies, on BM innovation, open innovation, and innovation ecosystem management. And he is a professor of digital innovation and entrepreneurship at the Surrey Business School, UK, and is visiting professor at the ESADE, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, ESADE, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that, business school until recently, and also at the National University of Singapore. And he was recognized by the International Association of Management Technology, IAMOT, as one of the top 50 authors of technology and innovation in the world. Technology and innovation management during the period 2008 till 2012. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Dr. Wim van Haverbeke.
Thank you very much, Abdullah. I'm humbled by your introduction. So, yeah, as you mentioned already, I'm working basically on digital innovation. So, and of course, with COVID-19, with the COVID-19 crisis, we have seen that digitalization is indeed there in our lives. Is there, let's say, in the companies, it's also working, let's say, in a society. So I want to focus a little bit more on that. We have already some beautiful insights from the previous speakers, so I'm very happy with that. And I think I just can extend what we have been listening already to. So just a personal, I don't have any slides, so I'm going to talk a little bit about my personal experience, let's say, during COVID-19. In the first 2 months, I was convinced that this would be another crisis, just like the bank crisis in 2009, and that life would come back to normal in a year or maybe 2 years. Today, I'm no longer convinced about that. Yes, we will probably have a recovery. Yes, we will probably be back on the economic trail, so that's fine, but it will be a different economy, it will be a different society. So I'm pretty sure that first, we're going to organize our lives differently, and not only because we have social distancing or something similar, but because we value different things in life differently than before. That's one thing. Second, and more important to my field and probably to this conference, is that we're going to organize companies differently. And I'm more and more convinced that this is the case. And you see already companies changing drastically, not only in the COVID period, but also preparing for the exit of the COVID period, right? So, and that's going to be a different company. They're going to be different companies, different ways of working. I will have a few examples there. And then last but not least, I think we're going to change industries and also the society. And the role of different players we have now in society will change too. And we have already listened to a few previous speakers that also alluded to that. So let me give you a few examples of how the organizations, how companies going to change how companies going to change in the future. One thing, and by the way, all this, the COVID itself is not, let's say, the start of the digitalization. Digitalization was there already 10, 15 years, but now we see it as we see the accelerated application of digital technologies. and it goes very, very quickly because we need it, right? Because of the COVID, because of the distancing, because of the fact that we need digital communication and so on. So we see the applications coming up very fast, but they were there already. So it's not a technological revolution, it's a revolution in our habits, it's a revolution in our way of doing, in a way of thinking, and in the way we practice this kind of stuff. So let me give you a few examples of how companies are changing. So first, for instance, with customers, right? So the relationship with customers. Previously, companies had to go or went mainly through, let's say, distribution channels. And now you see a whole wave of new companies, so usually small companies that break through, let us say, these barriers. I give you small names of small companies such as, so Harris Shavers, if you know it. Previously, you had the Dollar Shaving Club, where these are really startup companies, very small companies, young companies that take on Procter & Gamble in the shaving industry, in the razors and blades. Who could think about attacking Procter & Gamble 20 years ago or even 10 years ago? So big companies, big established corporations now have to fear small startup companies that just because of new digital, because of the application of digital technologies, just can move in and can eliminate, let's say, the blockage they have on the distribution channels. Similar to Casper. Casper Mattresses is a startup company building up like a 1 billion company now, right? So in a few years' time, in mattresses, in a very simple product, right? But with different business model, and then you see how it goes. And also, for instance, I see a lot of possibilities using digitalization in, for instance, our relationship with raw materials, like, for instance, in coffee beans, right? You have, for instance, like Bex 360. Bex 360 has now a machine where combining machine vision and artificial intelligence and blockchain technology, you combine it to analyze coffee beans, the quality of the coffee beans, if they have diseases and so on, and they can price it immediately so that the farmer has immediately his money if he wants to. So, and this is a very objective, this is basically objectifying the quality of the coffee. So you can, and you have an integrated value chain, let's say from the field to the coffee shop, right? So this is just a few examples how we really transform completely different businesses, also traditional businesses, but also, for instance, our relationship with, let's say, emerging countries. Let me switch to governments, or let's say society, because we think it's always about companies. It's not only about companies, it's also about the governments, it's also about the way we organize our lives. And I start with a very simple observation. In Belgium, we have, for instance, and I'm sorry to say so, it's a bad example, but we have now about 19,000 deaths on a population of 10 million people. Now, I think we should contrast that with Singapore, where they have about 30 deaths. I think it could be a little bit more, but not very much more. So 30 deaths on a population of 5 million. But you could take, for instance, Taiwan or another country, or Vietnam, for instance. They have similar low, very low death rates. Now the question is, we are considered in Belgium as one of the countries with the best medical systems. Now Singapore is also considered as one of the best medical systems in the world. But the question is, why do we have such a big difference? Why do we see this enormous difference? Well, it's not only the medical system, but it's also the way we tackle as a society the COVID-19 crisis. And then you see a lot of cracks in what I would say the Western European democracy. We value very much individual freedom, which is a nice thing, which is one of our values, one of the basic values of the Western democracies. But you see in this kind of comparison that probably it can be much more effective, right, in a Singaporean system or a Taiwanese system. So probably we have to change a number of things. And what I see is that we still are very defensive in protecting. It's like a defensive behavior we have in protecting individual freedom, while we should have a more enlightened discussion about use of data, digital technologies, and or individual freedom. And we probably cannot work with the same concept of individual freedom as it was initiated 200 years ago. So probably we have to change our values too. We have to think about rethinking the way governments have to act, the way our medical system has to act to be more effective and to generate a higher quality life as we have right now. Okay, I will keep it here.
Okay, thank you very much, Wim. That was amazing. That was smack bang on time. Congratulations. And I think that was a fascinating insight into how COVID-19 has actually affected the world in general. And I think those are very, very hard-hitting, important questions that need to be asked. In comparison, you have similar conditions, but then again, what is it that makes the management of the pandemic so very difficult in one context, depending on where you live? And I think this was very, very relevant to something that I read and saw some time back when we were talking about the US. Why is it that getting people in the US to wear masks is so very difficult? And it does have something to do with the way of thinking and the way of life, and where you put the individual first before the society. And in a society where you have people thinking about society before the individual, you have better control. So thank you for the insight for that. I believe that these are key discussions that we need to have in the COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 world. Thank you very much, Wim. Right, and we move on to the next guest. The next guest is the ever-ready Professor Dr. Yuri, who's always with us, who's been with us for all this while, and it's always a pleasure to listen to him. So a little bit about Prof. Yuri. So Prof. Yuri Jaromir is the head of Sustainable Process Integration Laboratory, SPIL, in the NetMe Center, the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering, Brno University of Technology, VUT Brno, Czech Republic, and he is the co-editor-in-chief of the Journal of Cleaner Production. And I do believe that I had a very interesting discussion with him in Langkawi 2 years ago about this, about how clean technology and talking about pollution and waste and how it affects life and so on. So he's an expert in that. And if you have any questions, this is a shout out, a reminder to our viewers as well. Please keep this as interactive as possible. If you have any questions that you would like to ask our panelists, please don't hesitate to put them down in the comments, and we'll get to the question and answer session after we've finished hearing from the panelists. And just a little bit more, so Yuri is also authored
Well, you become frozen. Okay, I think our moderator become frozen, so I will start the presentation not to waste time. Well, I am always ready, but now I am running into problems because within a few minutes I should be in Doha, Qatar, and I was promised to be the first, and unfortunately, broken promises, I am the last, so I have to cut it short. The first thing, I am a humble engineer. I am not on the level of governments. I am not on the level of policies. Just to the previous speaker, I've got one engineering comment, about freedom. Well, we are in the war, and we are in the war with COVID. And I don't think that Belgium, during the Second World War, when fighting Nazis, were very much concerned about human rights. And we are now in a very similar situation. Why I am saying it? Look on the number of victims in the US. It went over the Civil War in the US. It went over the First World War, and now it's getting close to the victims which the US suffered in the Second World War. So it's the war, and to fight and demonstrate during the war for human rights, I don't think it's appropriate. Excuse me, I'm old man. I remember a lot, I published my first paper 50 years ago, and I experienced many different governments in different countries. So this is my comment. But back to the engineering. I would like to share the screen, and this is what I would like to show you. I hope you can see it now. We are doing our fight to COVID, not on the level of the government because we are engineers, but we are doing it from the level of the technology. And when COVID started, we've been asked by actually the Irish government and the Renewable and Sustainable Energy Reviews journal, which is quite respectful journal with impact factor more than 12, to make an assessment about the impact of COVID-19 to plastic waste, energy and environmental footprints. And if you are interested, you can see it. Why I'm showing it, this paper obviously become touching something important, because altmetrics reach actually today is not 346, it's 347. And altmetrics is unlike citations, it's some kind of measurement of the impact on the society. And the paper was quoted at the moment by 35 media outlets, mainly newspapers, about 20 in the US. And okay, 74 citations from July, it's also something. But it seems that people are interested in this impact, not only on human rights, not only if I can be traced by the smart quarantine or what else, but what is going to happen with the environment. Another work which we developed is about energy and environmental footprints of COVID on PPE. Those who don't know what PPE means, well, I think you met it already, nearly everybody. Personal protection equipment, masks, gloves, protected suits, also testing kits and others. So it has got enormous impact on, at the moment, industry, logistics, and consequently on environmental footprints. It needs a lot of energy, a lot of consequently a lot of emissions and a lot of waste. And this is another issue which is related to COVID. Waste management. And to normal problems, we've got some others. We've got problem with infection waste. And infection waste should be also dealt with. And in this case, I think it's something what we have to deal with it and what we need to consider. It's not waste from hospitals. It's the waste from civic sector. It's what we are doing if we use the mask, and the mask can be infected. And just to throw it out on the street, which is happening in some countries or in the sea, is bad, but even to put it in the waste, it's a problem. Another issues which are not curtailing your human rights so much is organizing and management. And this is example what we did with Singapore, a STAR Research Institute, how to minimize the exposure. And as you can see, Singapore is very densely populated and people are using cars. Inside the car, they are more or less safe, but when they are coming on parking slots, they can meet not one or two, but hundreds of other people. So it is another topic which should be considered. And to the end, I jump from COVID, I jump to emissions. And because we are now, at least virtual in Malaysia, I took this graph showing the situation in Malaysia. Malaysia is doing quite well with hydro, which is the bottom, which is growing, but the rest of energy, mainly electrical power, is supplied by gas and coal. And if you look on renewables, which is this light green, they are poor orphans. And I am not saying Malaysia is bad, because many countries are like the Netherlands. If I knew that my fellow speaker is from Netherlands, I would prepare the slide. Netherlands is similarly bad. And this is what we should consider and we should think about. We can't change it very soon. It requires planning. The building permissions in the EU, at least in our country, takes about 10 years to build the wind farm. So we should think about it now. And this is the situation which we recently published in Nature about environmental, social and economic footprints of consumption and trade in Asia-Pacific region. And you can see what is important, not where the emissions are released, but where they are consumed. Because there are some countries, as many countries in the EU, saying we are nice, we are clean, we are getting the clean, but we pushed the steel production, we pushed more refineries, more heavy industry, fertilizer production, we pushed it out of the EU. It's kind of the hypocrisy. And finally, sorry, this is with the spoke. It is with the recent meeting which we made about the teaching and learning. And as I mentioned in the introduction, I spent most of my professional life at UMIST. We've got also UMIST contribution, and UMIST is an excellent example. UMIST started this distant and e-based blending teaching 30 years ago. So for UMIST to jump in the COVID situation wasn't too big problem. And this is an old saying, who is ready is not caught unready. And, I think there are more conferences and more panel discussions needed about teaching and learning. I with interest listened the introductory speech. It's fine, but one question is e-learning is even without COVID very efficient way, because what we did at UMIST that time, we already started pre-record lectures. And
hey, Yuri, if you could wrap up, please.
Okay, stop. That's it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you very much to Yuri, and he's gone. Thank you very much to Yuri, and wasn't quite sure why he suddenly dropped out, but that was a very interesting session on the pollution and emissions. And again, very enlightening data. And I was actually really very surprised to know that Malaysia was still dependent on coal. As a Malaysian, I had no idea. I thought we were generating through other means, but amazing. Thank you for such a great insight. So, ladies and gentlemen, so we have one more speaker, and as I always say, that when this guy comes on, it's always either beginning something or ending something. So today he's going to be ending something, and we have with us the final guest for today's panel discussion, and he is none other than the founding director of Connecting Asia, Dr. Muhammad Imran Qureshi. And a little bit about Dr. Muhammad Imran. He is currently also working as senior lecturer at the University Technical Malaysia Melaka, and he obtained his PhD from University Technology Malaysia. So he's proudly a UTM alumnus, and his teaching expertise covers project management, operations research, total quality management. Quite a long thing that goes on. So it's all about management and logistics and all that. And I know him as a stalwart academician who is very passionate in what he does. And I think he is one of the people who I consider to be even more hardworking than me. And that is saying something. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, let's hear from Dr. Muhammad Imran Qureshi and his views on the world now and beyond COVID-19. Dr. Muhammad Imran, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdullah. Can you see my slides? Okay, thank you very much. So basically, I would like to extend my thanks to all these speakers, especially coming from the different regions, and they share their valuable knowledge to all our participants. And it is very useful for all of us. But I would like to take opportunity to extend my presentation from some part of Professor Oskan. He talked about the system thinking and human in the loop, and also Professor Wim, he was talking about the ecosystem. So basically, if we see in the business perspective, if you can check with the business perspective, I would be more focused on the innovation and the side where all these operations happens. If we see a very simple S-curve, everybody knows that. So when we are into this situation where our business reach to maturity or product, so we try to do innovation. So many companies and many institutions and organizations and also the countries have already planning for this digitalization. But what happens, this process was planned for future, maybe 5 years or maybe slowly they were transitioned to the digitalization. But what happens, basically the pandemic happens. So I'm talking about those companies who was preparing themselves for the future, but those who were not ready for this, they are out of the competition now. But let's talk about those who were trying to become digital organization, and what happened, this digital future has brings some gap, because the first curve, they were into the maturity stage, and the second curve, they were not into the stage where they can have their product ready for digitalization. So this created a gap, and that gap have been explained by all of my professors who were talking before me. So all these gaps are in different shapes. So I'm just talking about the three major components which have created a large gap between what we can do and what we had to do now. So the first thing which I want to talk about is the capabilities. The capabilities are basically, we can discuss these on the three levels: the country level, organization, or individual level. So those who were talking about this digitalization and those who have the plan for digital innovations or digital product or moving their organization to digitalization, they were successfully doing it. And I think even though this pandemic happened, that gave them opportunity to do it quickly, and they were successful. Some companies, they were getting benefit from this situation. But this is not affecting only on the organization level or country level. There are other levels also. For example, the individual level. So individual capabilities, capacities are very much needed. When we are upgrading all the system, digitalization is all there. It means that individuals are also need to be upgraded. And this is where the human should be in the loop. And now this capability, some of us, like us, we are trying to learn, and we are trying to learn daily something new. And even sometimes we are not aware what we should learn for the future, because the situation is changing very quickly. We have to learn so many technologies, and so many capability enhancement is required. So this is the first point where we were talking about the capabilities. And the second point, the digital business ecosystem. We think it is easy, but for middle or the SMEs or small business, it's not easy to have a digital business ecosystem. It is very, very difficult for all of those companies or businesses who are doing this. Basically, SMEs or small business, they have dependency on their logistics or supply chain with the other companies, and it is a complete ecosystem which is very much difficult to develop, especially for those who are not having these all digital capabilities. So this is very important to see how small business, especially those companies who don't have this type of capabilities, how they can develop themselves into a digital business ecosystem. And I think still there is a lot of gray areas for them, and a lot of things to learn. A lot of investment is also required. So that is also a point where we were planning to document in this conference. So we had one session on this. And then the final is basically uncertain business environment. So we know we have learned a lot of things new, and every day we are learning something new. But what is going to happen once we are back into the normal situation? Although we know, as Professor Wim already mentioned, that the future would not be the same, and it should be a completely different world, or societies have been already reshaped. But reshaping businesses, and especially small businesses and medium businesses, it's not very easy. The big companies with a huge investment, they are able to do it. All the countries who have technology developers, they can do it easily. But the companies or countries who are lagging behind, there is still a gap, and there are a lot of things to learn, and they don't understand what is going to happen for the future. So that point is also very important to understand and to overcome. Now, this situation is also very important to understand for institutions. Like, I know UTM has this policy for online learning, and our institution also were planning to do this online learning situation. But what happens, we did everything in very short period of time, and that created a lot of issues for all of us, especially with terms of capabilities. And still what we are thinking, okay, once the COVID is over, we may go back to the normal life. And that is where I think many of these institutions are still need to learn that the future would not be the same, and they have to develop something with long-term capabilities also. Now, the question is, what would be the future, and what major characteristics or major learning abilities which we need, or capabilities for the individual and business level? If I say as an operation manager, if I say as an operational management researcher, I would see there are two major factors would be the future contribution as an individual and as an organization also. The first is capability to develop innovative solutions. That is the first thing every organization should learn. Open innovation, yes, we know that we can do, and we have a lot of learnings and a lot of things from open innovation, but it is also being restricted up to some level. So how we can develop our own capabilities, that would be a very important question. And the second, what are the skills a human need, or especially in the business, what are the skills we need to survive or to stay competitive in the future? In my opinion, that is only one thing for now. It is learning ability. So the quick you can learn, the quick you can respond to this situation. So that is the future of the world. And what I can see is these three things are very important in terms of business. not only large businesses or multinational companies, but also this is a point of concern from the for the small businesses, and also it is for individuals also. Even if we see in our jobs, we have to learn everything new, because we were taking classes in a different way now, and we are doing businesses in a different way now. So, but what we are thinking, back of our mind, we are thinking that, okay, once the situation would be normalized, we will go back and we will do our normal operations. So that is the normal perception, which maybe we have to rethink, and we have to invest into capabilities of human being, and also the capabilities of innovation for the companies and the nations also. Thank you very much, Dr. Abdullah, and thank you for all the participants who listen.
Thank you very much, Dr. Imran, for a very insightful look at the topic. And right now, I do believe that we have come to the question and answer session, and we will set aside a bit of time for this. And let's move on to the first question. And the first question is to Dr. Ozkan. Let me just read the question and try to decipher the question. Question for Dr. Ozkan: that modern medical technology is capable enough to resolve. It has been 8 months. Where are we? Okay. So the question, to my understanding, is modern technology is enough capable to resolve COVID? Basically, I think what the asker of the question is asking is, where are we in resolving the damage caused by COVID-19 in terms of medical technology? Yeah, that's probably the question. It's quite convoluted.
Right. So basically, I should say that I'm not a medical specialist. So I'm a doctor, but doctor of philosophy. So, but that means still, due to my research, which is about forward thinking and future studies, I've had the chance to, of course, go a little bit, deeper in different parts of science, different parts of society, and how all this come together. So what I tried to communicate earlier was that even if we are, for example, capable of, developing some technologies to fight with the COVID-19, it is not only about the availability of technologies. So I always have one important saying, actually. Our aim should be to develop scientifically possible, economically feasible, and socially desirable technologies. So once we satisfy all these criteria at the same time, then we have those technologies which are available for the convenience of everyone and for the access of everyone, and they can be used by the broader society in an equalistic way. So it is not actually enough if we have the availability of technology. For example, we are talking about vaccines now, and we know that, yes, this vaccine can be a solution, but there are a lot of concerns, of course, how this will be distributed, how it will be made available to different parts of the world, because the virus actually pushes us to think the world in a kind of a more equalistic, as a more equalistic space. We may contain virus in one country, but if we can't do it in the other country, the threat still continues. So that is the big exam in front of us as the humanity, as the economic system, as the stakeholders, for example, in the healthcare sector, technology developers and decision makers to resolve. So we have some technologies, some solutions, but it is not enough only to have those technologies available. It is important also to consider them from a multiple systems perspective for their access and availability for all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ozkan. Now, the second question goes to Mr. Khusro. How can collaboration be established in the digital future between developing and the developed world universities? Moreover, between academia and industry? That's the question.
Thank you very much. The first part of the question between the developed and the developing nations, as far as the academia is concerned, and I think now it rests on the shoulder of the academic community to see the bigger heart and see to it how they can contribute to the other nations. Case in example is MOOCs. I attended a workshop long time back in Malaysia, in your country, where they were very generous in actually introducing the system and training the people in the MOOCs and the related technology. I think it is an onus which goes to all those academic institutions, the leading academic institutions who are working on the online education in both the modes, synchronous and the asynchronous mode, and they are the one who can now offer this. And I have seen many universities, including Harvard and Stanford, who are offering few courses free of cost to the students across the world. And I think that is one approach which can be done. But as I have said earlier, that the knowledge and the intelligence sharing between the countries at the national level and at the subnational level is very, very important. Holding that knowledge and holding that thing to your chest and not sharing is not good. And we think that we should go in that where, and I have given in my presentation, I have given one way forward as far as the opportunities are concerned. When I said research on COVID vaccine and all that, it should not be monopolized and it should be shared. And there should be international agreements on this, how we can work in that direction and we can actually share that knowledge in the health innovation, in the preparation of the vaccine, and to make it available to all the humanity. So that is where the role of the international institutions comes in that area, knowledge area. But all this said, in the academic sector, it is already there, but it need to be strengthened. So that is the way forward. So that is the first part. Second, please, can you
the second part was a similar thing, but instead of between institutions, it's between academia and industry.
Sure. Now, the collaboration between the academia and industry in the developed world is very, very effective and efficient. And it is basically the problem of the developing countries and those countries which do not have a very strong research culture. And their research is not basically, thought by the industry to be enough to resolve their problem. I think the academia should come up to the expectation of the industry and they should be more oriented towards actually addressing, providing the solutions to the problem of the industry and the public institutions. So that is when you will create a value, the academia will create a value, then naturally when that value will come, the industry will be attracted towards those solutions. So that is my reply to that. Very simple approach to that phenomenon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khusra. I think I was very, very much attracted to what you said about having the knowledge and holding it close to your chest does no one any good. You need to be able to share with the world whatever it is that you have, and it might be a problem if we don't have enough. How do you put this? Because one of the most important things for industry is profit, and it's very, very tempting for companies to try and profit off of something so big as COVID-19. So where do we draw the line, and where do we become altruistic, and so on? So these are bigger questions that I feel that we need to ask. So thank you once again, Mr. Khusraw, for your very enlightening response. Thank you once again. The next question is for Professor Nizar, Prof. Nizar. The question is, do you think that academic activities will normalize in 2021? If not, then if not, we are ready to carry COVID. If not, then we are ready to If not, then we are ready to carry COVID with us in next year. I'm not sure what that means, the second one, but let's answer the first part. Do you think that academic activities will normalize in 2021?
Thank you for the question. I believe normalize probably means that are we going back to normal for next year? For now, it's still uncertain. As you can see, the case is still high. So talking about the whole year of 2021, probably we are anticipating that there will be no travel until probably the first, we don't know yet about the vaccine, whether it will work or not, but targeting probably until middle of next year. We're hoping that we are waiting whether the ministry will say whether we can travel or the student can come back. But in the meantime, we are all ready. If it's like back to normal in the sense that people can travel, yes, we'll go back to normal, but the online classes will go on as of now. And if say everything is okay, then if students are still not really sure, the online is there, the online classes, and we have started also students like the research students doing it remotely, so they are back in their country. And just if, I don't want to say this, but since it's mentioned that COVID is with us or carried to us, even if it's the whole year, then we are ready to do it online, although it's not the same as physical. But I guess this is what we have to accept, and we hope for the best. But for now, we are here with the online teaching and learning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Nizar. And I think this is the same for every institution in the whole world. Everyone's just waiting to see first and just see what happens, getting small batches of the vaccine and see what happens. So everything is see what happens. So we'll see what happens from here. Thank you very much, Prof. Nizar. Right, so the next question, we have three more questions before we end. Next one is for Dr. Wim. The impact of COVID-19 has been both immediate and far-reaching, spreading across the globe. Technology leaders are no exception. So how do they, I'm assuming the question is, how do the leaders in technology plan to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that because I don't know who the technology leaders are. But if you think about big companies, like Netflix or if Google or Apple and so on, of course, they do profit enormously from this COVID-19 because people have been shifting away from real life activities into digital activities. Think about the packages you buy from Amazon and so on. Mm-hmm. But this is an immediate effect. I think the more important thing for the society and for the economy or the long-term effects, because it's not only the platforms that we have that are important, that gain importance in our life, the platforms of Amazon, Google, Apple, and so on. So they do gain importance, but I think it's much more important if we can be creative, and there are a lot of opportunities based on this new digital infrastructure. And we can go different directions. I mean, we can support or we can work with Amazon and so on. But I see a lot of small companies that pop up that have a complete new business model that allow us to have new high quality services or products, whatever, based on this infrastructure. So life is changing, we are changing as customers, producers are changing with us, and for sure the interaction between the producers and the customers is changing dramatically. We are no longer, so let me phrase it differently. The business models are no longer based on products and services. The business models are based on data, and data come from you as a customer. You generate in Facebook, but also in Amazon and other platforms, you generate data which other people can use, which these companies can use. But what I think is more important is that not only companies are doing that, but for instance, in healthcare, you see that data become as crucial as, for instance, the intelligence of the doctor, right? Because data will inform the doctor in time that something happens, and that something should happen, right? That you need some treatment, and so on and so on. So data and data integration in healthcare is crucial. Same happens in energy, with digital meters. Same happens in agriculture. Same happens in all other, let's say, main aspects like mobility, for instance, we have seen, right? So we have to be prepared that a lot of industries we have been seeing so far are changing from products and services into a data-driven business models. And that sounds maybe a little bit abstract, but it comes straight to you as a customer.
Thank you very much, Wim. And I think very recently that there was a show on Netflix. I can't quite remember what it was, but it's do you remember the name of the show? That there was one show that talked about how these companies, how they build a profile from how you browse and how you search the internet. So the profile that they get from your data gives them money, and that enables other companies to buy data from them and to sell us things.
And that's one good example. Another example is, for instance, Netflix itself. Netflix is now a producer of many programs and many movies and so on, or series. And they have these typical profiles based on the data, right, of all the consumers of Netflix. And they know exactly what we want. That's why they can produce something we really like, you see? And that's also in terms of market risk of market introduction of a new product or a new project, very interesting, because they can reduce the risk. They know that based on this information of the customers, they know that the risks are pretty low. And so they have lower risk than, for instance, Hollywood, right? A typical Hollywood production.
Right, exactly.
Good.
Okay. So thank you very much for that. And actually, that has also answered the second question to you. And I'm just going to read it out because it's there. Okay, so I'm just going to read it out. So question to Prof. Wim about professional service firms. What can be the challenges and opportunities for these if they go for digital transformation, especially in the case of the UK? And I think you've mentioned all this just now in your answer. So thank you very much for that. And we now go to the final question of the day and of the whole conference. So the question goes to Dr. Imran. Dr. Imran, the question is, how can we upgrade ourselves to face the future? How can we upgrade ourselves to face the future era post-COVID-19? So that's the question.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdullah. First of all, it's your words. I always start or end something. So this is the last question. So I hope so it's going to end this session. So the capabilities or how we can prepare ourselves, it's very simple, because nowadays with this digital transformation, we have a lot of things to learn. And a lot of things. If you see, I'm not sure how many new techniques or softwares or new things I learned in the past few months. It was not in my whole life. So I escalated all these things within this COVID period. But the thing is, the only one skill is required for the future, the learning. If you can learn quickly, that is it. And if you can unlearn quickly, that is also one part of your development, because what we learn, we always try to use it, no matter what the situation is, no matter it is fit for our future or not. So we try to fit that capabilities within the scenario where it is not required. So that is why we need to unlearn and we need to learn quickly. So that is the future, and that should be the future of all humans after the COVID also. So that is my answer. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Imran, for an extremely short and sweet answer, but very, very precise. And this actually brings me back to the conversation that we had just a few days ago, actually, where we were talking about how the COVID-19 situation has forced us academics to not just be academics. We are technicians, we are content creators, we're photographers, we're videographers. We do all these things that we used to have other people do, but it doesn't make sense to pay other people to do it anymore. It's something that we need to do to adapt to the change. So you're absolutely right. The main thing that we need to take from this whole experience is the learning. As long as we can learn and unlearn the things that we have learned that are not relevant, then the better for us. And so, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we've reached the end of the session. We've reached the end of the conference. So let's give ourselves a round of applause, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the panel. Thank you very much to everyone, starting from Prof. Yuri, who I don't know where he's gone, but I'm hoping that he's still seeing this perhaps on Facebook. From the Czech Republic, and then we have from Belgium, we have Professor Wim van Haverbeke, and then we have Professor Özkan from Moscow, and it's great to see you again here. And then we have all the way from Pakistan, a very privileged gentleman, Mr. Khusro. Thank you for joining us. That was great. And we have right here from UTM as well, my compatriot and colleague, Professor Niza. Great to see your smile as always, and great to see you harnessing your Toastmasters skill in giving the presentation. And last but not least, to my friend here, the founding director of Connecting Asia, and also the APRA president of Pakistan chapter, Professor, inshallah, later on, Dr. Muhammad Imran Qureshi. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dr. Abdullah Muhammad Nawi, Dr. A, and signing off this time round from Johor, Malaysia. I just want to say thank you once more for joining us. Thank you for making this event a reality, and we couldn't have done it without you. And a special shout out to the technical team who've been there. A special shout out to everyone from Connecting Asia, from the APRA all over the world, to our panelists, to our videos, to our viewers everywhere. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and God bless everybody. Good morning, good night, good afternoon, wherever. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Connecting.
Allah Hafiz.
Bye, everyone.
Stay
Thank
safe,
you.
everyone.